Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink. It's time for some Path of Exile 1 discussion. This is the first episode in a new series, which is Atlas Strategies Described Quickly. This is going to go into moderate depth only on a couple of strategies that work really well for Atlases, and particularly things that I think might be timeless. We're going to talk about generating massive quantities of high quantity maps. This is a very simple strategy. It doesn't require the most powerful character in the world. It's actually fairly beginner friendly. What you're going to want to do is use a certain combination of Scarabs, 2 or 3 of Cartography Scarab of the Multitude, 1 of Cartography Scarab of Corruption, 1 Cartography Scarab of Escalation, and 0 or 1 of Delirium Scarab of Delusions. Then you're going to want to run a map. I'll show you the atlas I'm using, but you don't need to copy it exactly. We'll talk about the things that are important on it. And then depending upon your character's power, there are 3 ways you can go about doing this. All of these are profitable. Some are more profitable than others. So the first way is you can use a standard 8 modifier tier 16 map. Doom Gambit is an example here, and you'll see that it'll have a pack size of at least 38%. Quantity will be something around the 100 range or above, and at the same time, you'll have 8 modifiers on it. These maps can be fairly challenging, but they're also the easiest of the 3. The second option you can go with is an Originator influence map, but this time they have more maps. They just have plus 35% there. Now, these tend to have modifiers that are harder than is normally available, but at the same time, they also can provide additional loot. So this has 52% pack size, which is more than you can get on a normal map, but it also comes with that 35% more maps on it. Or you can go with a well-rolled Originator map. This one here is 105% more maps, and on top of that, it's got pretty normal stats. Again, though, this means it's going to have more of the nastier modifiers on it. So, what do you want as far as your Atlas tree goes? You don't have to copy this exactly. You'll see here that I've got strong boxes. You don't need to be strong boxes, but strong boxes are pretty good for this setup. The key things you're going to want, though, if your character can handle it, and it's perfectly reasonable to say no, then what you want to have is all of the map modifier effect that's on the passive tree, or at least most of it. So mounting modifiers, which is 16% increased effect of explicit modifiers on your map. That's a very difficult thing. It adds a lot of difficulty to the maps that you're running. And at the same time, multiplying modifiers, which is 15% increased effect of explicit modifiers on your maps. So what does this do? This means that 113% item quantity, there's a 31% more multiplier on that. It's actually more than 31% because you're picking up a lot of 2% nodes as well. So those things all add up as well. And if you've got one of the well-rolled examples here, not only is the 101% item quantity getting a big boost, but so too is the more maps mod. And these things multiply with each other. And the pack size is also scaled up by this factor, and pack size is something really valuable. So essentially you're triple dipping on the Originator maps. Not only are you getting an increase in item quantity, which means more maps, you've got an increase in pack size, which means there are more monsters that are dropping more maps, and you also have a higher magnitude on that more maps drop scale. So these 3 all compound with each other, and they're really effective. As far as your Atlas passive tree goes, I would usually recommend doing this in conjunction with a destructive play, but you do not need to do this. You can go with a Searing Exarch or Eater of Worlds if you prefer, but that's entirely up to you. In terms of the actual mods that you want, though, you want to pick up a lot of the map sustain that's available on the tree. So shaping the world, shaping the skies, shaping the mountains. I would recommend that you take all of these. And then you just want to take mechanics that don't add very much time to each map that you run. That's the main reason that I've invested in Strongbox and Beyond here, but you don't have to copy that exactly. You can go with something else if you would prefer, and that's very much a viable option. For example, when I started doing this strategy, I was doing it on Expedition, but Expedition's just that bit slower, so I moved off it. Breach, however, is really good, and you can do whatever you want. Then you want to block a lot of the different content types that you're not interested in running, and that's, again, to stop you from getting distracted, to stop you from spending a lot of time running not very valuable content. On top of this, you'll see I have the pretty uncommonly picked Concealed Logistics here. I'm actually pretty content with this. It's definitely duplicated a fair number of maps. And really, that's all there is to it. This is a fundamentally very simple atlas. You don't need to copy this exactly. You just need to take a bunch of the nodes down the bottom, potentially even more than I have for map drop chance. You want to take Shaping the Skies, you want to take Shaping the World, you want to take Shaping the Mountains, and then you just want to have a cohesive plan that doesn't involve spending a lot of time in each map. There are, however, 2 more mandatory points up the top as well, and they're actually travel nodes. So map, item, memory, influence, chance. There are 2 of these nodes on the tree. They are fantastic. They increase the chance that your maps have memory influence, or originator influence as most players term it, or sometimes people call it tier 16.5. This is really, really strong. You definitely want to have both of these points no matter what. And it connects to a number of other things that tend to work well if you're doing a north of tree type setup. So there's a lot of good stuff here, but these are really important. When we come to selling these maps, you'll find that these maps that are memory influenced are worth quite a bit more. And on top of that, if you're playing in solo self-found where the resale value doesn't matter, they're still really useful to have because they just drop more loot. They are, of course, more difficult, but sometimes you'll be able to do them anyway. What's your outcomes going to look like? Well, if you go with this core setup of Scarabs, so that's triple Cartography of the Multitude and 0 Delirium of Delusions, then you can expect to fill up a full tab of maps in something like 12 of the non-Originator maps, or about 8 of the Originator maps that are not very good, or about 4 or 5 of the best Originator maps. And if you find yourself able to do this on Nightmare maps, then you'll find Nightmare maps that are even better than Originator influence maps are, assuming that the roles are comparable on them. Once you've got a full tab of these, you can then go through and pick them out. What I would suggest you do is you take all the ones that just have the standard 16 logo and you list them all at 10 or 11 chaos. Now, some of them will sell quickly, most of them won't. The ones that sell quickly, you could have got 12 or 13 C for those, but that would have just taken longer. The rest of them, they'll mostly sell at 10, but they won't sell on peak time. They'll tend to sell later in the week during the quietest periods of the week. What about the special maps though? So you're going to get Shaper Guardian maps, you're going to get Elder Guardian maps. These don't really hold any additional value in this league. That might change in future leagues. You're going to get your Elder Slayer maps. These tend to sell for a little bit more, but not massively more. But then you're going to also get Nightmare maps. These sell at least in the 50s, but sometimes more in Chaos. And you're going to get Originator maps, which can be all over the place. What I recommend you do is don't actually put a huge amount of time into price checking everything. Instead, just take out all of your special maps. What you want to do is list them all at 500 chaos. Almost none of them will sell, maybe 1 or 2 of them will. Then you want to unlist them all and relist them at 400 chaos. Unlist, relist at 300. Unlist, relist 250. Unlist, relist 200. Unlist, relist 150. Unlist, relist 120, 100, 90, 80, and so on down. Now, what will happen is that progressively more and more of them will get taken off your hands, and that means that with a minimum amount of effort yourself, you'll end up getting a pretty good percentage of the total maximum value of these items. So the super short version of this is the Scarabs, triple Cartography of the Multitude by default, single Cartography Corruption, single Cartography of Escalation. The map that you put into the device is an 8-mod map. If you're going with Maven Witness, then you do need to pick a map that is not currently already witnessed. And you can also do that on those Shaper Guardian maps that don't tend to sell very well, so that's something to keep in mind. And if you want a slight variant of this, and this is particularly good if you're playing in solo self-found, drop 1 of your Carto of the Multitude and add in 1 Delirium of Delusions. The payoff for this is that every map that you get will be delirious. It will have a strong bias towards 1 or 2 layers of Delirium. Some of them will have 3, uncommonly you'll get 4, and rarely you'll get 5. But it feels like you get an average of 2 layers of Delirium when you do this, and so that ends up meaning that every map that drops is going to be better, but you'll also get fewer of them. The reason Cartography Scarab of the Multitude is so good here is that it's adding 10 packs on average of monsters, but these monsters are the tier 17 exclusive monsters. They're inherently able to drop more loot than most monsters, and they have 300% increased map drop chance as well. All of this tends to add up pretty well, and you end up getting a lot of maps dropping. On top of this, you want to do this with 4 voidstones on your Atlas. So definitely socket these all. That means that more of your maps will upgrade to Nightmares. Anyway, really simple one. I wanted to keep this one short. May your Varlobs have interesting results.